everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and today I'm going to recommend 6 bodyguard romances for you. If you've been following along my channel for the last 12 months, you will probably have seen that I have delved into romantic suspense and bodyguard romances. What I will preface in this particular video is I'm not really going to be sharing the longer running bodyguard romance series that I read. These are things that either are duologies, trilogies, or standalone bodyguard romances, just because I thought this would be a nice way to break it up. If you're interested in me sharing some of those other series, let me know. I'm more than happy to do a second video. So the first book that I want to talk about is Silent Night by Evie Mitchell. This is the second book in the Raining Hearts duology, and I am getting a copy of this when I go to Rare, and I'm so excited because it's got a gorgeous cover and it's both books in one, and it's a flip book. I'm very excited. I can't wait to show it to you guys. This is a holiday themed novella about a princess who is at her wedding, but the prince that she's marrying reveals that he doesn't like the way that she acts, and she throws wedding cake at him. And then to avoid the humiliation and the scandal that has all caused, because of course that goes public, she heads off to the Alaskan wilderness to stay with a former palace bodyguard called Croydon, who is much beloved by the palace. And of course, when she gets there, he's very gruff. They're in very close proximity to one another, and she is very much out of her depth because this little cabin in the wilderness is not quite the palace that she's used to, but the two end up falling for one another. This is a royal and a bodyguard romance. It's also kind of a love letter to Roy and Keely from Ted Lasso, so if you enjoy that, you'll probably enjoy this story. It's super short, there's not a huge amount of world building in it, but that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is just to be something really fun and light. The next book that I have is Broken Vow by Sophie Lark, which is the 5th book in the Brutal Birthright series. I do own a copy of it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know where I've put it. Anyway, it's my favorite book in the Brutal Birthright series, and that's possibly because it's kind of removed from the mafia-esque kind of stuff that happens in the rest of the books. Anyway, it is a bodyguard mafia style romance. The heroine in the story, Riona, is a mafia lawyer. She was born into the mafia life and she's become the lawyer, but her life is now threatened, and so in order to keep herself safe, she is sent out of the city and into hiding with a guy called Raylan, who is a friend of her brother's, but is not involved in the mafia. He's a former soldier and he is currently a bit of a cowboy working on his family's ranch. I loved this story because you have the grumpy heroine, sunshiny hero dynamic, which is always my favorite. Riona is very much out of her depth when she finds herself on this ranch, and Raylan is just enamored by her. He is just head over, like, he falls first. What else can I say? It's that kind of story, and it's just great. The next book I want to mention is Inextricably Tied by Aveda. This is an MMF monster romance, which is not for the faint of the heart. It is very, very dark, but it is so good. There is a prequel story called Skin, which is a novella-length story, and this sets up the relationship between Flint and Harbinger. But ultimately, this particular story is about the relationship between Flint, who is a gargoyle bodyguard, Harbinger, who is a banshee whose touch basically causes her to form an immediate connection with anyone that she comes into contact with. So she's very guarded about who she actually touches with skin-to-skin contact. And the third member of this triad is Agony, who is a night terror that has been pulled from the body of a serial killer, and Harbinger accidentally touches Agony and becomes connected to him. And the three of them end up on the hunt for this serial killer to try and stop him before anything else happens. Harbinger and Flint's relationship is kind of on rocky grounds. They both have really painful, turbulent pasts that they're trying to deal with, and Agony sort of slots right into their relationship and probably fills some of the gaps that they didn't realize needed to be filled. For this one, I would 100% say check the author's website for content warnings for this story and any of Aveda's books, but it is really well worth it if you like a monster romance, because it's a very complex relationship and setup, and it was really, really good. Then there is the first 3 books in the Twisted Hearts series by Katee Robert. Now, this was formerly known as the Thalanian Dynasty trilogy, which had a prequel and then 2 novel-length stories. This is a special edition that I have of it before it was rebranded as Twisted Hearts. This is another MMF story. It is between a prince in exile, his bodyguard, and a regular woman that they meet at a bar. Meg is out at a bar one night with some friends, and she ends up having this one-night stand with Theo and Galen, with the, clause that they will never see each other ever again. And that's the premise of the novella. Then we hit the first novel. We find out that Theo is trying to reverse his exile and be reinstated into his family's throne. Galen, who is his long-suffering best friend and lover and bodyguard, is trying to keep him alive when people want to kill him, and Theo just can't leave Meg alone. and the three of them end up in a relationship in the palace, and that has all the court intrigue and danger and scandal of them managing this relationship. So I really, really enjoyed this series. It was one of the first Katee Roberts series that I finished, particularly in her contemporary series, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then we have Triple Duty Bodyguard by Lily Gold. If you've seen my Lily Gold reading video, you'll have heard me talk about this one. It is a Waichu celebrity romance. There is no sword crossing in this book, but it is about Briar, who is an actress, and she has perfected this kind of persona of being high maintenance and unapproachable and almost dislikable in the way that she presents herself to the media, and ultimately that is a front. She puts up that facade to keep herself safe and to keep people at a distance. But when a stalker manages to find their way into her home, she is given 3 bodyguards to keep her safe, and she finds this really stifling. The 3 bodyguards really don't know what to make of her. One of them just thinks she's absolutely spoiled rotten. The others are trying to figure out exactly what's going on beneath the facade that she puts up, and the 4 of them end up falling into a polyamorous relationship throughout the course of the story. Of all of the Lily Gold stories, this was the one that I enjoyed the most, probably because it did have that bodyguard element in it, so there was that romantic suspense sort of plotline as they try and figure out who is stalking Briar. But I also liked how Briar eventually has to let her walls come down and let people in, and the guys will have to understand why she has them in the first place. I appreciated that conversation. And the final book that I want to recommend is a book that I read this year, and that is The Bodyguard by Katherine Center. This is a contemporary romance. This is a closed door romance, but it is really good fun to read. You have Hannah, who works as a bodyguard. I love this because she's the bodyguard. We need more of those. And after the death of her mother, she is put on the protection detail of a Hollywood A-lister, Jack. She doesn't particularly want this job because she has to go undercover as his fake girlfriend while he's in town to take care of his sick mother. And while they're faking a relationship, she begins to get really confused as to whether or not Jack is just a really good actor or whether there are real feelings developing between them both. I really liked Hannah as a character because she finds herself in this situation that she doesn't want to be in, and she's doing it to further her career because her ex-boyfriend is being a pain in the neck because he also works for the same security company. But the more time that she spends with Jack and her family, she finds something that she's missing. And collectively, all of the characters in the story were quite fun to read about. I think I said in my original review that I almost wish there was more books or a longer story or something, because I really enjoyed spending time with these characters who, despite, you know, being a bodyguard and a Hollywood A-lister, are still people and have feelings and have things that they're working through, and that made them very relatable. All right, so those are my bodyguard romance recommendations. In the comments, I would love to know if you've read them or if you're planning on picking them up, or feel free to share any bodyguard romances that you think I should read. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a rose emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.